What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me this afternoon. We are going to talk about why it is important that myths never go away. You're not going to like this. You might like it. I don't know. We'll see. But we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Before we get started, do me a favor. Hit the like button and the subscribe button if you like guitar stuff, because that's what we do. And then also go over to DylanTalksTone.com and buy some pickups, because that's what our real job is. If you have questions about pickups, get them in the chat, and we will try to answer them today. We have put a bunch of question marks before it, and I'll try to catch it. And then we'll answer those. We've had a ton of traffic on the website today and yesterday, people asking questions about various things because of that video yesterday. So if you have questions, jump in here and we'll chat about it. Also patreon.com/DylanTalksTone, as well as YouTube members. And if you're a YouTube member or a Patreon member, you get 10% off everything we make. So just know that, because that's can be substantial for $5 a month and get $40 off of a pick guard or whatever, you know? So that's pretty cool. And I don't care if you're a member for a month or two and you just cancel because you wanted the discount, no big deal. So yeah, do that. Go check that stuff out. Also, while you're at Dylan Talks Tone, even if you don't buy anything, go to the rig of the month, rig of the week, rig of the month, contest deal. And you can enter to win some stuff. This month, it's going to be a bunch of stuff from Lizard Spit, because Chris Webster at Lizard Spit sent me a bunch of stuff to give away, which is really cool. We have two of these stools, and apparently I grabbed the one that collapses, the same one I was sitting on Thursday. I ordered some to replace it, and they've not come in. They're supposed to be in today. So there you go. Let's chat about myths, because, you know, I'm like the biggest myth buster of guitar stuff. My brain, that's how my brain works. I just want to know how stuff really works, right? And so we've kind of, I don't want to say we've kind of gotten the reputation for, but I guess maybe sort of. It's sort of how, honestly, on purpose, I structured the channel for the last 10 years. And I've said this before, that I made a mistake in that, I think. And we're gonna talk about why that is. I kind of goofed up when sort of formulating the channel. I think that there is a need for us to have some of these guitar myths around. I think it's really important. I know that a lot of you are here because you like myth busting and you like to know how stuff actually works. I was having a conversation in the chat today with the gentleman, and he's like, I want to know what I'm buying. I want to know how it works. I want to know technically what it does. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. So the idea here is not that we should put up with bad information, right? There's a lot of bad information that's just plain wrong. And that can mislead people when they're trying to put together a guitar rig, or they're trying to do something technically accurate. To maybe inaccurate information will make it to where you do damage to your guitar, maybe like that sort of thing, like how you take care of a finish, or how you finish a fret end, or how you check, how you solder. You could ruin a capacitor, or can you, depending on the kind of capacitor it is, right? There are certain things that the accuracy of the information is really important, right? So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that every kind of mythical belief that people have about this stuff, it's not harmful. It's not always harmful. Honestly, it keeps, obviously, the discussion alive, because we all have things to talk about. We have opinions on various things. So we don't want to, but at the same time, we don't want to waste money on stuff. We don't want to damage stuff. But to be fair, most of the myths that are out there, a lot of when we talk about guitar myths, and maybe you guys can think of some. Oh, hang on. We got a super chat. 1 second here. From Tazzy Tim. G'day, mates. He's from the Upside Down there in Australia. I really feel like the biggest myth is that it matters what is on the headstock. See, okay, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that. In fact, I'm going to write this down because that's a dumb take, to be honest with you. And we are gonna put this. This is gonna come up in our conversation under elitism. We're going to talk about elitism. But elitism can go both ways. So we're going to discuss that here in just a few minutes. I'll thank you for making that comment because that reminds me to talk about it. I think some myths can inspire growth and change, but I think some myths are extremely detrimental. Yeah, right. So some stuff, you do damage. You can do damage, and you can honestly do damage to a community, not just the gear itself. So there's a few things. Okay, the biggest thing is I think there's little truth to a lot of stuff that are considered myths, right? So, the biggest one would probably be tone wood, right? We don't need to get into it. Everybody has a different feeling about it. And the bottom line is, however you feel about it, it doesn't really matter how you feel. Like the end result doesn't really depend on that, right? If you believe that gravity is real, that's important. Whether you believe that tone wood affects the tone of an electric guitar, the wood affects the tone of an electric guitar or not, it doesn't really, it doesn't have a seatbelt. It doesn't have an airbag. You're not driving it. If you crash it, you're not going to die, right? So there's really your feelings are your connection to that instrument, however you feel about it. Right. And I always say about this stuff is it's as important as it is to the person who believes it, because it doesn't matter to me because I don't care what the guitar is made out of. So to me, it doesn't matter. But to a person who is like, I want this particular thing, then let them think that, because it doesn't hurt anything. No, it's no big deal. And there are nuances to it all that make it to where there's really no argument. So there's a lot of things that no matter how technical you get, you can't measure. So if you can't measure it, then there's no point in having an absolute about it, right? So it doesn't matter. It could be either way, because when you're within this margin of error, who cares? Just stay, you're within the margin of error. It doesn't matter. We talk about, a lot of people talk about all kinds of materials in guitars. The finish, does the finish breathe? No, it doesn't. It technically doesn't. But I won't play an Epiphone because of how it feels, right? And it's not that I like Squiers and I like other stuff. It's just Epiphones for some reason. I just don't like how they feel. It has nothing to do with anything except for just how they feel. It's a weird thing. So you can believe whatever you want about finishes. It's not really going to change the world. There's going to be a lot of people that have differing opinions on whether hand-wound pickups are better or not, right? And I can go both ways on that, and I make them. And I can tell you the technical reasons why they could be viewed as better, but I also can tell you why a lot of what we do is with a CNC machine, because it's better, right? So you have to understand. So you can parse apart various things, and there's little reasons for both. So why make an absolute about it? And honestly, we need that. We need all these conversations because it's fun. It's fun. The one thing that I think that people forget, and this is where I made the mistake. I got really technical and I made all my videos super technical. And I'm like, I'm going to show you what is a myth and what is not, and what is technically correct and what is technically not. And we've done very good at that for the last 10 or 11 years. And to this day, people will argue with me about stuff that's scientifically accurate and they think it's not because they believe in some sort of myth, which is totally fine. I won't argue those points. It's totally fine. The problem with how I did this is we don't buy guitars, most of us, and I hope you don't. Some people do, and there are too many people that do, to be honest with you. But most people don't buy guitars purely based on spec, right? So if I'm going to buy a new television, this came up the other day. I bought this TV to put in my wife's office, and I bought it like a year ago, and I didn't realize that it didn't have Apple AirPlay on it. Well, that came up the other day, and now I'm bummed out because I needed a TV with Apple AirPlay. Sometimes you got to have certain features to do certain stuff. I just bought a 3D printer, and I got the 3D printer I bought because it has various things and doesn't have various things, and it's awesome. Guitars are not like that. Guitars are an emotional purchase, or they should be an emotional purchase because they are the vehicle to creativity. So if we take away all of the belief side of guitar playing, then we're really killing a lot of the emotion for people. If you feel a certain way about a finish, if you feel a certain way about tone wood, if you feel a certain way and that fuels your drive for the hobby and drive for the community and drive for the, all that, then you should, and for me, the music really, then it doesn't matter what you think. Believe in the myth. I don't care. The other thing is that we also base a lot of these purchases on nostalgia, slash our heroes, right? There's the whole psychology of being a certain age and listening to certain music, and then we kind of carry that as some of our favorites for the rest of our life. So therefore, we might have the guitar that our hero plays. We might have the, we might like the tone from, from the 80s, we might like certain kind of music. If we're from the 90s, we might like certain kind of music. If we're from the 60s or 70s, the same thing, right? Because that is a nostalgia thing. And so all the myths surrounding all of this stuff, they describe the feelings that we have when we play the guitar. They're part of the feelings that we have when we make the music. And so, and that's how we make music. So we got to have some of that. And I think I screwed up when I'm like, all right, we're going to remove all the myths, because what it did is it sort of narrowed the people that were interested in this. And I know a lot of you are interested in like the myth busting and stuff, but I really feel like you can become too arbitrary with it. It can become just too polarizing. And really the whole point is to have the fun. Especially as oh crap. Hang on. This isn't good. Sorry. I actually dumped water on my keyboard. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is we have been, as our channel grows, we have been attracting a lot more beginner players, which is something that I've always wanted to do, right? This is not just for experts. Guitar playing is just not for the experts. We want to constantly be expanding the amount of people that play guitar and the amount of people that learn about the instrument and the amount of people that learn how things work. Like we want to constantly be growing our community. Because guitar can't die. We don't want it to die. We want younger folks to take it up. We want, right? No matter what kind of music they play, no matter what kind of guitar they want to play, if they want to play Taylor Swift songs, I'm totally down with it. But as a result of that, what you'll find is a lot of quote unquote entry level or beginner guitar players, all they have is the myth. And so that's what their first sort of entry into the hobby is the myth, is the thing that you think doesn't matter. For example, they'll buy a Hero's signature guitar because they, that's what they know. That's what brought them to it. I always use the example of the Machine Gun Kelly guitar because I don't care what you think about the guy, or his music. He brought a lot of people to guitar with that guitar. So that's really cool, right? And that's an excellent example of it. So if somebody says, I want a particular kind of guitar based on some goofy myth, who cares? They're starting to play guitar. Which is really, really fun. Hang on one second. Let's go back into some of these comments since I got a little distracted here. Gatekeeping infuriates me. Okay, we're going to talk about that. That's like the next on my list right here. Okay, so this is the exact next thing that I want to talk about. If we try, and this is the problem, this is where I have been complicit in this, and I hate it about myself. I don't want to do it anymore. I've been thinking about it a lot. Like, it just bugs me to feel like this. So this might be a little personal too. Not even so much for anybody else, just for me, just kind of thinking out loud and document this. It's really been bugging me that when you try to kill all the myths, when you try to say, that's not true, this is exactly how it works, that's not true, this is exactly how it works, then you just get all the, well, actually, right? Like all those people. And it creates elitism. It creates a situation where people are afraid to ask questions or are afraid to explore or are afraid to try stuff for the sake of not being made fun of or the sake of not being included because they don't feel the same way or they may not know. Because nobody likes to be wrong, right? And so if you tell somebody that Tone Wood is stupid, then automatically there's a percentage of people who now you're not friends with anymore. That makes no sense. That's dumb. We're playing guitar. We're having fun. Like this is fun. Okay. It can go the opposite way too. And this is something that's really been bugging me. I made that video yesterday and there was a bunch of people in the comments who were like, yeah, I totally agree. Okay. So first of all, what do you totally agree with? Because the first three parts of the video were, these are the people that shouldn't buy pickups. And then the last three were, these are the people that should buy pickups. And they seem to contradict each other, but if you're not paying attention, you could just like take a side, right? Which is what a lot of people do with a lot of stuff. So, I got a lot of comments that were like, I agree. If you can't even intonate your guitar, then you shouldn't be replacing pickups. That is a dumb take. Okay. It's a dumb take. Anytime you are gatekeeping somebody else's fun, you're being dumb. It's dumb. Don't do it. It's like having fun doing something that you enjoy should not be merit based, or it shouldn't be like, well, I'm not, because then the opposite side of this is, well, I'm not good enough to have that guitar. I'm not good enough to buy new pickups. I don't even know what I'm talking about. Do you know, this was really neat, man. Last night, I would say last night and all day today, actually, a lot of the comments or a lot of the chats that I've been getting on the website, and not everybody's bought pickups. Some people have. We sold a bunch of stuff yesterday. But most, they didn't even necessarily have to buy stuff, but it was like, hey, I saw your video about who shouldn't buy pickups, and now I'm sort of interested. And they're like, I haven't played in so many years and I don't know what I'm doing, but I have some questions. Because we created an environment where people could ask dumb questions, or they felt that they were dumb. But in the chat, it was just me and them. So there wasn't like a whole bunch of people ridiculing them for, hey, how does coil splitting work? How does whatever, I've got a Firefly with blah, blah, blah. And should I put new pickups in it? Well, let's have the conversation. Well, it turns out he might get new pickups, but he didn't buy any right away. Totally fine. Like, that's perfect. That's what we're talking about. But people are afraid to have those kind of comments and those kind of questions and those kind of conversations when we have people saying stuff like, yeah, if you don't know how to intonate your guitar, you shouldn't be able to buy new pickups. That's so dumb. It's so dumb. Gatekeeping is dumb. We all should be able to have just as much fun with whatever we have, no matter how much it costs or how little it costs, at all times. And it should not be controlled by somebody else's thoughts on it. It's a thing that just drives me insane. And so that's something that I really am trying to change the kind of the concept of what we do here, because I just think it's really, really important. Everybody knows that tone is in the face. Exactly. The way you hold your mouth, that's where the tone comes from. We should do a whole video on that. Too much bad info flowing around on the internet. There is, but the thing is that most of it doesn't actually hurt anything. Obviously, I pay attention to that because of what we do. And so I don't, I'm in a couple of Facebook groups and stuff, and I don't ever comment. I'm in a guitar repair Facebook group, and I'm like, oh my God, how did these people ever fix anything? But I never comment because, first of all, I don't want to be like, hey, I know how to fix this and you don't. I don't want anybody to ever feel like that. And I just kind of want to see. And the bottom line is, most people are getting along just fine. They might not be able to set up a guitar in 15 minutes. I mean, I can set up a guitar from one end to the other in 10 or 15 minutes. They might not be able to do that. It might take them 2 hours. But they're getting along just fine, and they're learning. And, they might strip a screw out every once in a while and have to buy a new replacement screw on Amazon, but they're getting along just fine. And the majority of people in every hobby, this is the whole 90-10-5 rule I talk about all the time. 90% of the money that's spent in this hobby is for the 10%, to get the last 10% of performance out of something that only 5% of people will ever actually appreciate. Right? And so most people, and here's the other thing too, is most of that money is being spent by a very small group of people. Okay. So for as many hundreds of pickups, I mean, a couple hundred pickups this month that we sell, right? And everybody else. So if we're selling pickups and Lawler's selling pickups and McNally's selling pickups and however many between all of us and Seymour Duncan, there's probably thousands of pickups being sold every month. That is a really, really, really small percentage of everybody that plays guitar. We think that we're the center of the universe because we made a comment on Facebook or on YouTube. The bottom line is we as a community who love this stuff are a very small percentage of the people who actually play guitar. And most people, myth or not, are getting along just fine, right? Whether their nut is bone or not, whether their frets are whatever, like, it doesn't matter. What the finish on their guitar, if it's a, the whole doctor lawyer thing also drives me insane. Because I think that I always say that you should buy the nicest guitar that you are capable of buying. Because it'll just make your experience more fun. You'll just enjoy it. I think you will, no matter what. Even if you're not that great, buy a really cool guitar if you can afford to do it, because it's really cool. Having a cool thing is very cool, right? So there's no merit in that. There's no, your checkbook is your merit. So if you can afford it, do it. It's fun. So for all the people who are like, oh, that's just a lawyer's guitar or whatever. Well, you know what? That dude works 80 hours a week. And if he wants to spend $5,000 on a guitar and hang it on his wall in his office and play it for 10 minutes, because that's all the time he's got for, that's why he can afford it. Right? Go watch 10 hours more on Netflix on Saturday afternoon instead of working. And now you'll realize why you can't afford one. So that's the whole thing, right? Like, so it doesn't matter who can afford what and who has a nice guitar and who doesn't have a nice guitar. And none of that matters. Get the nicest one you can, and we'll all talk about it. It'll be awesome. Right? You buy a guitar, I don't care how much it costs, and tell me about it. I'm going to think it's cool. Unless it's counterfeit. If it's counterfeit, I don't want to hear about it. But if it's not a counterfeit, I don't care what it is, how cheap it is, where you got it, pawn shop, doesn't matter. Don't care. I want to hear it because it's probably got a story. And that the story is where the fun is, right? It's not even really about the guitar itself. Now, I like nice stuff because I like nice stuff. But the thing is it's about the passion behind it, not about, Oh, so the person who talked about this earlier, the biggest myth is what's on the headstock doesn't really matter. Yes, it does. It totally matters. It totally matters. Because if it's what you want, then it matters. If you don't want it, and if it doesn't matter to you, that's cool. It doesn't matter to you. It matters to me, though. It matters to me. Legacy of a brand, long-term legacy of a brand, history, all those things. I got a watch coming tomorrow that it's not very expensive or anything. But it's got a really neat story, and it's got kind of a place in history. It's a watch that one of them went to the moon. Okay. So I think it's really cool. So yeah, that brand, trades on that because this watch went to the moon and it's a money grab, blah, blah, blah. That's what all the people will say, right? I don't care. I like things that have had a place in history, right? Like, I like that. I think that's really cool. And the Les Paul has a place in history. The Les Paul Jr. has a place in history. The Strat has a place in history, and not copies, like the real ones. Martin D28. Like, these are things that are really neat, and I think they're cool. So if you think they're cool, then you should do the same thing. If you don't think they're cool and you think the brand doesn't matter, then that's okay. Just no need to speak for somebody else. Let's see. Love my pawn shop guitars. Yeah, dude. To be honest, I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at I'm trying to find a Russian guitar, which is kind of interesting because they're all kind of garbage, but I just want one for the history of it. I think they're neat. Like a Soviet. I want a Soviet era guitar. Who cares enough to say something like that to somebody else? I agree. What's wrong with having a tech install your new pickups? Exactly. And to be honest with you, I always look at it as an investment of time versus money. If you have the time and you enjoy it, I personally really enjoy sitting down. A lot, like, for example, a lot of people don't like changing strings. I love changing strings, actually. I'll sit and watch a YouTube video and change strings on 3 guitars at once. I actually really like it. Some people are like, I'll never change strings. I can't stand it, right? Other things like acoustic stuff, I pay somebody to do that. I pay somebody to work on my acoustics. I mean, I'll put strings on them, but if they need work, I got a guy for that. I don't do it. I pay somebody else. And I know how to do it, and I can teach you how to do it. We can make videos about it, but in real life, I just pay somebody. You know? Like that's the kind of thing. There are certain things in life, right? That you're like, it's just not that important to me to know that much and do all that and care about all that. So does that make it to where I don't deserve to buy new pickups because I can't set up an acoustic? No, I just don't want to do it. Right? Yeah. I just don't want to do it. By that logic, I shouldn't deserve to have green grass because I pay somebody else to spray the stuff on it. You know? Yeah. So what does that mean? It just means that when we educate people about stuff or when we want to learn about stuff, I think we should always, and I'm talking to myself, but I'm also kind of thinking out loud here, framing it in the idea that how does it contribute to the creative process, right? It's not about being right. It's not about proving somebody else wrong. It's not about, because that's not really constructive to the community or to yourself, actually, mentally as a person. You're going to just waste energy on stuff that doesn't matter. So I think, how does it contribute to the creative process, right? And so I think about like putting a loaded pickguard in a guitar and making sure that you do that correctly is a cool conversation, for example. How to select the pickups for your guitar, how to do a setup on your guitar, how to, like, those things are technical things, but ultimately they are really kind of directly related to the creative process. Is whether your telly is an ash body or an alder body and fighting about that for an hour in the comment section gonna contribute to your creative process? Probably not. It's probably gonna hurt it more than help it. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. That's kind of where my brain's going with all this stuff. Yeah. I also enjoy the install and setup. I do too. I really enjoy it. Changing strings is about the only guitar maintenance I like to do rather than, I rather have a pro handle just about anything further. Martian Murray, you're pretty, from what I can tell, you've been around a while in chats and stuff. You're a pretty experienced player, and that you still go that way, right? Like you just have somebody else do it. Yeah, I dig that. I dig that a lot. Yeah, man. No, it's just an interesting conversation to have. I think that we should be more constructive about this stuff. And, obviously we want to make sure that we call out scams. We don't want to have, fake science, because there's a lot of bro science in the guitar community, and that's easy to spot, really. Any kind of fear-based, I'll give you a fear-based one. Should you take all the strings off your guitar at the same time? Doesn't hurt anything at all whatsoever. Anybody that tells you it does is just don't listen. You don't need that person in your life. Unless it's your dad, then you kind of have to like parse it out and decide how much you need him in your life. But you don't need to worry about that. Like that's an example of fear-based myths where it's like, oh, is this going to ruin my guitar? No, it's not. It's going to be fine. Well, but these 10 other people in this chat or this Facebook group are telling me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, let's break it down. I'll show you what we're talking about. This is why it doesn't matter. Like that kind of stuff. And then ultimately, if you still want to go believe that, that's totally up to you. But I'll just try to dispel fear. I don't want people to be afraid of their guitars. But I don't think we should, I'm not going to change anybody's mind. You're not going to change anybody's mind. It's no big deal. We just put the facts out there and we just go, right? That's all we really do. Yeah, super fun stuff. I love this. if the string tension myth was true, every time someone dumped their Floyd, the neck would get messed up. Exactly. I always say your guitar used to be a tree. It's pretty strong. It was up there for, 100 years, 200 years, 300 years before they cut it down. And, it's fine. It's going to be fine. The 110 pounds of pressure that you have on a set of strings, if they're heavy strings, the guitar's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. All right, y'all. This was fun. Thanks for hanging out. And we will see you probably tomorrow.